Mr. Raymond, advocate, very good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Rennie, and good morning, listeners. I'm well.
It is good.
Waiting for this phone call. Thank you.
It is good to have you. Good to have you this Sunday morning. A lot of things happening in Trinidad and Tobago, but let me go with some of the areas that are tied to you. And I'm going to ask you briefly, just give me, because I have not spoken to you since the appointment of the liquidators, the situation with CLF and the decision to have the liquidators in place quickly. Do you think that will play a very important part in the budget that's coming up on Monday? And are you happy with the decision of the court and the move thus far?
Well, the move of the court was the move of the appeal court was to reject the judgment of High Court Judge Rennie Bishop, which in fact blocked the appointment of a provisional liquidator. So provisional liquidators have been appointed. So we should expect some more clarity going forward in terms of assets and liabilities and disposals, because the provisional liquidator is obliged to report to the court. And I expect from some of the statements Mr. Imbert made when there was the consultative exercise about the economy a few days ago, Mr. Imbert basically promised to have a fuller statement on the CL financial implications in tomorrow's budget presentation. So we would see some more about what it is. The first liquidators report has been published. I'm still trying to get hold of it. It was lodged in the High Court. I think they have to lodge them periodically. And there have been some reports on it. And I expect us to have a greater level of transparency going forward. Not as much as we should have. Because the desired effect is for us to know how all of that money was spent. It's over $25 billion. And the way to demonstrate that will be for the state to withdraw its appeal against the High Court ruling in my favor, to have that information published. The public needs to know how its money is spent. The public needs to know how public officials' powers are being exercised. This is a republic. We are all equal.
On the heels of that, I'm going to continue with the issue of transparency, and I'm going to go straight to what we are seeing going on at the port of Trinidad and Tobago. For a long time, it has been complained. Many folks have said, listen, we know there is a bottleneck. We know there is corruption. We know there is complicity by a lot of people in creating the problems of the port. Here comes the Joint Select Committee looking into what is going on down there. Are you satisfied, Afra Raymond, with what we're hearing in the sense of it bringing any answers to the many questions that surround the inefficiency we see at the port?
Well, what is happening is this. First of all, let me say that I'm happy that the Joint Select Committee that is taking this amount of time to examine the issues of the port, because I wasn't able to follow all of the coverage and so on. But a lot of information was unearthed that may have remained concealed. Okay, so we had a lot of information. And of course, we had competing contexts. One person is calling another person a liar, and another person is saying, and the Prime Minister himself is saying the biggest problem facing his government is corruption, and so on, and I have no reason to doubt those statements. The point is that I think we need to get past this paradigm. We need to have a capacity to learn. This is an educated society. We've invested in education for all these years, and we need to get past this situation and get past the point about asking us to believe politicians. This is not a personal point to any politician sitting or former or prospective. This is a serious point. I don't want to believe what it is happened or what it has happened. Publish the tender reports for all the exercises to provide a new Tobago ferry, including the aborted exercises and the suspended exercises. Publish them all. That is the standard we need to maintain. They need to be all published. Those reports contain details about who tendered, what was the price, what were the conditions, how it was analyzed, how many points were awarded. For example, Bridgman Service Group, the group that has leased the Cabo Star to the state and was supposed to lease Ocean Flower number 2. Who is who is the ultimate beneficial owner of Bridgman?
Well,
in other words, who is really Bridgman?
At the end of the day, there are two things here. One of them you identified. You called it the blame game, and you just alluded to that. But is it not true that it is important, would you concede that it's important for us to go through all of this, what may be called a blame game, to understand what happened, to find out who is complicit in this, to find out if this is incompetence, to find out if this is corruption, if this is nepotism. The only way you can do that is to go back from the beginning as far as you can and follow the thread all the way down to the end.
Yes. So that's we need to have the facts published. And the interesting point I want to make, Rennie, in relation to this, is that the Sunday Guardian 23rd of April this year, published an article where, in fact, the state was refusing to go along with a request for privacy from the company that was leasing the Superfast Galicia.
Yes.
The Superfast Galicia owners wanted the discussions to be conducted under a non-disclosure agreement. And the state took a very robust position. The state's lawyer was the eminent Dr. Claude Denbo, senior counsel, and they said, no, we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually a matter of high public concern. This is a matter of national interest, and we will not be agreeing to any confidentiality. We're not keeping anything private. The public needs to know. And they took a very robust position, which anybody, myself included, could support. So the Galicia left, Superfast Galicia left our waters and so on. We are now in a new scenario a few months later, and we are finding that we still have a mysterious silence. Who is the owner of Bridgman Service Group? Who are the other people who tendered? What did they tender? What marks were awarded? The tender reports need to be published. And public administration, to be sound, public administration has to be consistent. It has to be transparent, and it has to be reasonable. And it is not possible to have good public administration if inconsistencies prevail. And the inconsistency is that on the 23rd of April, you wanted to remove any cloak of secrecy or discretion from around the owners of Superfast Galicia. And presently, despite all the talk on TV, we still don't know who is the owner of Bridgman, and we still don't have those tender reports.
At the end of the day, you will concede, I believe, that one of the big revelations we had coming out of this is the statement made by the Honorable Prime Minister that, in fact, the owner, this is the email he got, the owner of the Cabo offered to speak directly to the port management, to speak directly to them, to lease the situation to them. If, in fact, the email was sent and it got to the now, what is it, he's suspended, I believe, CEO, if in fact it was sent, then that, at the end of the day, is a big deal.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's we'll see how this go on. We are hearing, however, from the chairman that we are not going to see the end of that report until next year. Too long, you think?
I think that's a long way off. That is a Joint Select Committee. Now, let me just say something about that. I don't want to criticize the Joint Select Committee unfairly. The Joint Select Committee, which is part of our parliamentary system, has, as far as I'm concerned, a very good track record, and they've added a lot to the public information on this question. So they've done a very good job as a group of organizations, Joint Select Committees. The Parliament in our country is an exemplary organization on a global level. The information, the quality of information, the way that they keep the public informed is truly exemplary. I wish a few ministries would follow that. So let us give credit where credit is due. To colleagues in the Parliament, fine job. What I am fighting for is that, in fact, and so I expect the Joint Select Committee report to be published, Rennie, in a few months, 2, 3, 4 months. That's the normal cycle they work within. What I am fighting for is that we try to learn from our past. We had an inquiry into the public sector construction industry, and the 39th recommendation of which was that when there's a tender situation, all the rules and the reports and the assessments and the marks and so on ought to be treated in as transparent a manner as possible, to allay any suspicion of corruption. And we have refused to learn from an exercise that cost the country over $50 million, that commission of inquiry. So the previous government, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Besessa, they kept falsely repeating, saying that in fact they were implementing the recommendations. They never did. The current administration, ironically led by Dr. Rowley, who is one of the people who precipitated the inquiry, they've been silent on the recommendations. And if we would just implement those recommendations, we would have the reports in the public domain, and a lot of the speculation, doubt, and the loss of public trust that this issue exemplifies could be allayed. So it's nothing to do with the Joint Select Committee. The people in the administration in this country, which is the current PNM administration led by Dr. Keith Rowley, have the power and the choice to publish the tender reports. Put the information out there. Let's get this onto a different page. Okay? Let's not normalize this nonsense.
I am optimistic that we will be getting all of that. I'm just optimistic that it will be there. 10:35 on time. The voice that you're hearing is that of Afra Raymond, Managing Director of Raymond and Pay. He's also the past president of the Joint Consultative Council. He is one of those advocates who put his money where his mouth is. He's the one who went to court in the CLF situation to get the facts. He won his case, albeit still to have every part of that settled as far as the court ordered. But he puts his money where his mouth is, and he continues to work. A great website is what you carry on there. On that website, you've been talking about the situation with Sandals. You look at the Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown revealing that Sandals were about to close for 5 months because he said they were pushing his cabinet to waive duties and taxes on food and beverages. Now, let us be clear what we're talking about here. When I bring in the Antigua example, it is part of what you have been asking for, which is full daylight on any agreement. Because in the case of Antigua and Barbuda, the Prime Minister said they were already given concessions. Now that they control the industry for the most part because they are Sandals, they seek to have more things going their way via concessions. What is your major disquiet with this Sandals deal, Afra?
Well, the major disquiet is this, Rennie. Our tourism, just to talk on the taxation and duty concessions for a moment, our Tourism Development Act of 95 actually contains substantial concessions that could be awarded to Sandals when that hotel is developed. That's already in the law. So that's nothing to do with the current administration or Mrs. Prasad Besesa. That was in the law 20-something years. What is intriguing is when Minister Young spoke with the Port of Spain Rotary on the 15th of August this year, he mentioned, and I take him at his word, he mentioned that Dr. Rowley had not yet agreed or proposed to Cabinet the complete set of concessions it make to Sandals. So there's a feeling I have, reading what Minister Young said, there's a feeling I have that further concessions are going to be offered to Sandals to attract them to make the investment and to partner with Trinidad and Tobago. And I think we need to know what those are.
But Afra Minister Young also said we have nothing to hide and there will be full transparency on this.
Well, I'm a little skeptical about that, and I'll tell you why. I've been doing some, and this is no disrespect to any individual speaking, just a question of dealing with the facts. I have been doing some research for the last year with my colleagues from Disclosure Today into the performance and the agreements of the three largest hotels in Trinidad and Tobago. The three largest hotels in Trinidad and Tobago are state-owned. That is Trinidad Hilton,
Hyatt.
That is Hyatt Regency, and that is the hotel formerly known as Tobago Hilton, is now known as the Magdalena Grand. Those three hotels, they were designed, constructed, fitted, and furnished with taxpayers' dollars, and management arrangements were entered into for the operation of the hotel. I have been trying to get copies of the management arrangements and get details of how the hotels have performed. Have they paid what they were supposed to pay? Have the different clauses in the agreement been honored? Have they paid all their taxes? And it's been a very difficult battle with public servants who are being very evasive, and it's all reminiscent of the CL Financial Code of Silence. So in fact, I have been having a hell of a time trying to find out what is actually happening at the three hotels, and yet we are being asked to believe by Minister Young and others that in the first hotel we can't tell you anything, the second hotel we can't tell you anything, the third hotel we can't tell you anything, but on the fourth hotel we have nothing to hide. And I say, come again. I say, come again, not good enough, come again. We want the information on the first hotel, the second hotel, and the third hotel, and I might believe you about the fourth hotel. Come again, Minister Young. Come again, Prime Minister. All respect observed, come again.
I want to continue into this area here because one of the areas looking at your analysis of this Sandals deal, you talk of concessions, but is it not true that in order to attract a brand as Sandals, just the same way you make concessions to attract investment in oil exploration in Trinidad and Tobago, any part of the world, that you have to make some concessions, and some of them are, let's just say, a little excessive.
That is true. You could have an investment environment in which you have to make concessions to get people to come. That's true. No one is denying that. All I am saying, as a member of the public and who has taken up this cause, all I am saying is that before you make any agreement that commits us and future generations to a large-scale agreement, I think we need to know what is being considered and what is being agreed. That's all I'm saying.
Does that not undermine, however, good negotiations? If while you you are en route to getting something completed, there are negotiations going on, and you make it public, you bring everybody into business. I mean, there is a pull, there is a tug. Negotiations are ongoing. As long as the negotiations are ongoing, nothing is final, which means everything is dynamic.
Well, all I would say is that it's not best practice, and that kind of secret negotiation practice is at the root of much of the disturbing things that happen in our country. I have a reality test, and the reality test says if there's the expenditure of public money and there's zero, and you minus accountability and you minus transparency, it's always equal to corruption. It doesn't matter whether it's Nigeria or South Africa or the Great Britain or Wall Street or St. Vincent's Report of Spain. Once you don't have accountability and you don't have transparency, it's equal to corruption. We have 3 hotels going on in this country and no information on how they perform.
You have a situation in Tobago where tourism is dying. I'm not talking away from what you have said. Your point is taken, noted, period. Sure. But you have a situation where tourism is really needed. We're talking about diversification of the economy. You're talking about an industry in Tobago that is in dire need of a boost, as it were. Notwithstanding what you have said, would you concede that this Sandals deal is essentially a good one from many fronts? One, it is going to revitalize the industry. It is going to bring a lot of foreign currency to Trinidad and Tobago, and it is also going to do something that I find interestingly stated by Mr. Warner, president of the Massey Group.
That's
where
correct.
He says they are going to transform the capability, set, and competence of Trinidadians and Tobagonians who work with them.
Yeah, well, I think if a large number of Trinidadians and Tobagonians become engaged as employees and supervisors and managers within the Sandals Group, I expect them to be a high level of training and so on. So I can see that point. I will make 2 other points, though. First of all, Sandals has a marketing motto, Rennie, that says you can leave your wallet at home. In other words, once you're paid for the Sandals vacation, you can leave your wallet in your bag because everything is paid for. People will stay on the resort. The bookings are made online. So I don't know how Trinidad and Tobago is going to get a lot of foreign exchange from that arrangement. That mystifies me. The other thing is that although we could all understand that Tobago needs a boost, not only from the problems with the ferry, but from the wide-scale reduction in visitor arrivals, although we could all understand that, the other part of this discussion we need to be mindful of is the fact that there are substantial externalities that have to be paid for by the public. Externalities mean additional costs that have to be paid for a project to proceed that are not literally on the compound. So in the case of Sandals, you may have to have an upgrade in electricity supply. You may have to have an upgrade in the water supply and the sewage treatment capacities in Tobago. You certainly would have to have an upgrade in terms of the airport terminal. Those costs are going to be paid by who? And what does one consider when you're doing a whole analysis of the project? So these are some of the broader considerations that I think have to be brought in mind going forward on this project.
I hear what you're saying. But it will also, just to note, a side point, that it will also assist all of tourism, all of the lifestyle of Trinidad and Tobago, of Tobagonians. If, in fact, you have an upgrade of the airport, you've got better water supply set up, you've got, at the end of the day, it is going to trickle down in that sense. Just a side point.
Yeah.
Afra Raymond, my brother, it is always good having you. I did not have you in studio this morning, but I know you made of your busy schedule to take the time to be with us on the telephone, and for that, I am very appreciative. Thank you so much, my brother.
Have a good day. Thank you.
You have yourself a wonderful day. You looking forward to budget tomorrow?
I am, yes. I'm
on TV. Boy, I tell you.
Another station with no name, so yeah, man.
Talk to you later, my brother. Afra Raymond, have a good day.